This is it, the end of grammar, of morphology, the foundation for syntax. We've come to the 8th part of speech: nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, pronouns, conjunctions, prepositions, and interjections. Interjections, IJ. I'm going to show you all the average student of foreign language ever needs to know about interjections. Let's say I. There are various kinds of interjections. Well, grouped by form, this should be so simple. Simple, no pun intended. It should be so simple because I've done it so many times. I've got this book here. I didn't write out all the examples because I'll come up and show you the book in just a little bit. But a simple one would be ow, huh, ouch, yes, no. Those would be simple. There are compound ones. Examples I've got here. Oh, these are fun. See, with the kids, we had fun with interjections. We had fun with a lot of this. Grammar can be fun. Oopsie daisy. Jim Dandy. Oh, zounds. Zounds. I like that one because zounds was a compound one from God's wounds. It's archaic, but in Shakespeare's day they would say zounds, God's wounds. That's profane. Phrasal, heavens to Betsy, is one in here. Holy smokes. So you can have phrasal ones too. Remember, an interjection is a word that shows feeling and stands alone. And stands alone. It is not part of the syntax. Sometimes you get, kids are likely to think perhaps swear words are interjections. They often are. They often are. But they aren't necessarily. You can use a swear word to describe something or to name something. But in that moment of surprise, sometimes a swear word will come out. I find myself thinking of a movie called, I think it was called Christmas Vacation or something, where some kid had to hold the lug nuts in a hubcap, and all of a sudden they spilled and he swore. Out it came, a word he'd normally never say in the presence of his parents, and it cut. The next scene you saw was his mouth open and a bar of soap in it, I think, as I recall, because he'd said that word. So sometimes in that moment of surprise, swear words do come out. Now if you group them by meaning, I'm telling you, this was fun to teach this to a class of kids, because I say, all right, I try to control it. Raise your hand before you tell me. Give me an interjection that expresses pain, ouch, or ow. Pleasure. I can just see those kids now. What do we try to write in? A lot of times interjections are hard to write down. We have yum, yummy, yummy. Something tastes good. Mmm. Some kids said, ooh, baby. That would be phrasal. Surprise. Yikes. Whoa. Hey. They're not part of a sentence. They just come out. We've got here, whoa. Warning. You can have one of warning. Heads up. Heads up. That sounds like a sentence, but stop. Look out. Timber. When a tree's going to come down. I was watching a video in German, and I can't think what the word was, but I saw that those guys cutting a tree down, it wasn't timber, it was something else, but they had a shout that they made when they saw that the tree was going to go. On the golf course, people say, four. You're going to see this stuff. A lot of this stuff, though, is a result of kids telling me. Some are almost physical. Very hard to spell. Somebody punches you in the gut, and what's that sound you make? Ugh. Yeah, how do you spell that? But they try. They've written down yuck. You have something in your mouth that tastes terrible. How do you spell that? Letters aren't really there. Interjections are interesting. And maybe there's the ones of agreement. Yes. That would be an interjection. I think it's interesting that in some languages, in Portuguese, for example, si, sim, you can say yes. I guess Latin is the one that there isn't exactly a word to say yes. You know, and you think, how could that be? Well, in Portuguese, for example, instead of saying sim, you repeat the verb. Fala português? Falo. Do you speak Portuguese? I speak. Falo. You could say sim, but that's what we do in English. And German too, ja. Negation. No. No. Nein in German. Now in Portuguese. If you watch the Black Orpheus when, what was her name? The real jealous woman, Mira, when she saw Orpheus go over the cliff, she shouts, "No!" And you know exactly what that means, even though it's a foreign language. Now, here's a chance also, I think, to tell you, yes, I didn't tell you earlier, kind of an interesting theory about the development of language. I like this one. It's called the heave-ho theory. Heave-ho, when you go to lift something, heave-ho. And the theory goes that that humans that developed that learned to say heave-ho had an advantage because a group of men or people could work together. Heave got ready and ho, they moved. I often harp on something, well, I don't harp on it, but I try to make it a point to tell my students at a certain point that as a carpenter, I learned that when you lift with a group, you do it on three. And you say, on three. 1, 2, 3. And then you make your effort on three. Yeah, a lot of times you see guys that aren't carpenters, and they're strong, and they get muscling around, let's do it. And I just walk away whenever I see that situation, because if they're not willing to get themselves organized to the point that they do it on the same count, I'm not interested. Someone's going to get hurt. That way, 1, 2, now wait a minute. If something's wrong, you don't go to the 3. Well, that maybe is beside the point, but the connection is with this interjection, heave-ho. Well, okay. I wanted to get that in the course somewhere, so there it is. Whenever you're lifting with somebody, make an agreement. Are you going to lift on 4 or are you going to lift on 3? I recommend 3. And you go 1, 2, and right on that 3 is when you lift. All right, euphemisms. Euphemisms, these are nicer ways of saying things that aren't so nice. It's a euphemism if somebody has died and you say, I'm sorry that he's passed on, instead of I'm sorry that he's died. You don't want to say it because it's harsh, so you say it in a kind of a nicer way. Well, in interjections, there's a whole host of scatological euphemisms. Scatological has to do with body functions, and for some reason, they tend to show up in interjections. Sugar, shoot. Well, sugar is a sweet thing. You know, I always think of this old lady. Well, she wasn't always an old lady, but when I knew her, she was an old lady, sweet old lady. And if something went wrong, she would say, "Oh, sugar." And I think, sugar? Why would you say sugar? Well, it's a euphemism for, you know what the word is. I was tempted to just say it here. But then I thought of that expression, so-and-so wouldn't say that word for a bucket full. Well, anyway, bull done, freak, fudge. These are scatological. And then there are profane ones. Profane means you take something that is sacred to somebody and you use it in a way that's not sacred. So if somebody says, Jim Zuz Price, well, that's Jesus Christ, which they don't want to say because that's like taking the Lord's name in vain. Or they'll say, darn. Well, that's a euphemism for damn. Heck. Heck, that's a euphemism for hell. Holy smokes. I'm not sure what that's a euphemism is, but anyway, there's a lot of them and they're kind of curious. Euphemisms are not limited by any means to interjections, but there's a bunch of them and they're kind of fun to hear. Well, that's it. I have covered the 8 parts of speech. I feel that I've covered them enough that I'm going to be ready to go on to syntax. But I'm not going to go on to syntax until after Christmas, a little bit after Christmas. We are at a kind of a stopping spot. It's been a month or more to go through these 8 parts of speech. All right, I hope you come back for a second video today.